Welcome back to another simple but not basic video. As you can see, I have a lot of fragrances behind me. This is not a green screen, this is my room. And as I say time and time again, I don't recommend that you get this. If you're not gonna review fragrances, I don't think you need this many fragrances. But for the sake of this video, this title is kind of outlandish. I'm trying something new. It says something along the lines of I have 100 date night fragrances and these 8 are my best. So the question is, do I have 100 date night fragrances? Is that an exaggeration? I mean, look behind me. Let me get out of the way.
That you could.
You see what I mean? But we're not talking about all of them. Today we're just talking about 8. These are 8 fragrances that I love to wear when I'm going on a date. Now, these days, a date for me is with one person, which is my wife. That is the only woman I'm dating. And especially, I love to wear fragrances I know she loves on me. So these are 8 of the best fragrances in my collection that she loves. Every time I wear them on a date, whether it's in the summer or in the winter, usually in the evening where we live, it's gonna be pretty mild. It's not gonna be crazy, so I can get away with just about anything. That may not be the same for you, so obviously use your own discretion should you choose to want to try any of these fragrances if you haven't already, and they will be linked down in the description if you want to do so. So let's dive right into it. First one up here is one of my favorites from the house of Fragrance du Bois. I don't love every fragrance they put out. Some of their stuff is a little borderline mainstream, but they've got some good ones. They've got some gems, and this is one of them. This is Secret Tryst, and it is, as you'll see in the B-roll on the bottle up close, a unisex fragrance. It is intended for men and women, but I think for that reason it's just well constructed to where on different people it's going to smell a little different. On my wife, it's a little bit softer, maybe a little bit more floral while still being sweet and resinous and a little incensey. On my skin, florals are toned down a bit. It's more incensey, more woody, maybe a little bit more spicy, but still resinous and sweet. It's both rich and elegant and cozy and alluring. It kind of has both together. So whether we're going to dress up a little bit more or whether it's totally casual, I'll feel good about this one. It just smells really sexy in the air. That is Secret Tryst from Fragrance du Bois. Let me know if you enjoy this one. This next one up here is tried and true, at least in my experience, one of my absolute favorite oud fragrances in my collection. I've talked about it a lot, so if you haven't heard of it, then you must be new here, in which case, welcome. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and that like button on your way in and or out. And I totally recommend you check out Oud Galor from Chris Collins if you haven't. But those of you guys who've been around, you know this fragrance. You've seen me talk about it. This is a fragrance that I can easily describe as it is expensive, but it smells expensive. You get what you pay for. That's not always the case in perfumery, but sometimes it is. And when it is, man, you forget about that price you paid altogether because every spray of this stuff is worth it and then some. This is a gorgeous, accessible, easy to understand, easy to love oud rose. It is opulent. It is rich. The oud here is a little bit more on the medicinal side. Is it the most natural oud? I don't know. I couldn't tell you, but it smells really smooth. It's velvety smooth, and I think what contributes to that is the orris. The orris here is buttery, smooth, again, like velvet, and it just kind of wraps up this slightly medicinal oud with a sweet jammy rose with some warm spicy cinnamon. It does have a little bit of a freshness to it, but not a fresh fragrance. Definitely something I would say for the evening time. And the way it comes together, it just smells luxurious. I do no more than 3 sprays of this stuff, and I am wrapped up in this bubble of beauty for the entire night, and my wife approves. Let me know what you think of Oud Galor if you've tried it. This is what I would call sexy fresh. This is nighttime fresh. If I want to dress in dark colors, if we're going out, it may be in a more casual way, but could be more dressed up. But usually if I'm wearing dark colors, like all black, then I'm probably going to pull out Gambit from Mind Games. And this fragrance just calls for that. Obviously down to the bottle, it has this sleek look to it, but it just goes with the scent as well. Now this, on the surface, when you first spray it, especially from a blotter, from paper, it might smell a little bit mainstream. It does smell almost shower gel leaning fresh, almost like your typical blue fragrances, but the dark ones and the high quality ones like your Bleu de Chanel, like your Sauvage Elixir, things like that. But on the skin, it immediately sets itself apart as something different, and also something that is not totally mainstream at all. It's actually a little polarizing because it has a lot of cloves in it. Cloves is a very dry, stuffy spice, especially when it's up front. Either you're gonna love it or you're gonna hate it. I happen to love it in this, the way it's blended with some other spices, with a little bit of a clean freshness, maybe some petitgrain, some patchouli. It does have this woody edge to it, some kind of sweetness that's very mild and not like vanilla or anything. It's just kind of wrapped up in there. Ultimately, it smells like a dark, fresh, clean, spicy fragrance that Just works for the nighttime, works for a date, beautiful stuff. Very expensive, cannot recommend blind buying, sample first. That's Gambit. Let me know what you think if you've tried it. Now, if I am definitely gonna dress up, then I will definitely consider wearing this fragrance, because this just calls for a suit, or at least a suit and shirt, maybe no tie, but if you're going that way, this will work just fine too. This is from Roja Parfum, it's Apex Parfum. Now, I've been pretty open about my opinions on this one, and I might feel a little bit contradictory because this is the Parfum version of the Eau de Parfum version of Apex, which is the original version of Apex. They released this 6 months after they released the original, which is the weirdest thing. I scratch my head at it, I squint my eyes at it, I don't know what the heck that was about. That being said, I like this more than the EDP, but I would recommend the EDP over this one to the average person who hasn't experienced this DNA yet, because you get a larger size bottle, because the performance is comparable to the Parfum, still smells great, and it is a little bit cheaper if you're gonna go in on that bottle. So I'm just being real with you guys, but this is a video of fragrances that I wear for date night. So usually I'm gonna wear this for a date night over the EDP. I kind of save the EDP for more daytime wear if I'm gonna be a little bit more elegant throughout the day, but this one usually at night. It is this masculine, kind of almost throwback leaning fragrance, green and woody. Very green, dark green, a little bit fruity, boozy, tobacco, woods. It smells like something that may have come out in the 70s but modernized, and it just has this richness to it. It has this sexy, authoritative maturity to it. Not for a younger guy, I would say, but doesn't smell like an old man. If you smelled it, I think you know what I'm talking about. Pure class in a bottle. Let me know if you dig this one. Apex Parfum from Roja Parfum. This has been a mainstay on the channel for several years now. It blew me away at first spray. I did not expect to feel the way that I do about this fragrance. This is from Micallef. It's DesirToxic. I've loved this for a long time. I've talked about it a lot over the years, but it's actually been a while. I looked back and saw that it's been some time since I featured this in a video, because I think I featured it so much in the past couple of years. So I kind of took some time away from shoving it in your face, but we're bringing it back because it's perfect for this video. It is authentic for this topic because it's something I wear for date night. Has this dark, sexy vibe. If you know Parfum de Marly Layton, it's in that ballpark. Doesn't smell like Layton. It does have some crossover in terms of elements, in terms of the ingredients, but does not smell like Layton. If anything, it smells like Layton's older, more experienced cousin, so to speak. It is a fresh, spicy fragrance, lots of cardamom. It makes it very alluring. Cardamom just carries this natural freshness, spice, and sweetness, and that combination is magic. You see it all the time in mainstream perfumery, especially for male-marketed fragrances, ones that are meant to be worn for the nighttime. But all of that is wrapped up in one note of cardamom, at least depending on how it's used. But in this case, it is used in that way, combined with some tonka bean, cannabis, maybe a dark fruitiness, maybe like a black currant or something. And it just makes for this dark, sweet, spicy, slightly fresh, alluring fragrance that is kind of different, even though it's really easy to understand and enjoy. So that is DesirToxic. Let me know if you enjoyed this one. I love this one. My wife goes crazy for this one. From the house of Amouage, boy, this is a lovely scent, one of the better ones they've put out since they've gotten their new creative direction in the past handful of years. This is Boundless, and this is a tobacco lover's dream. I've heard people compare this to Tobacco Vanille from Tom Ford. I could kind of see that, but ultimately it's a different animal. There's different elements at play here. If you look on the surface, yes, it has tobacco and vanilla, but what does that really tell us? Very little. In addition to that, there's some blood orange, there's LME resin, a whole lot of ginger, and a host of other resins, including myrrh. Myrrh resin is something you see in a lot of Amouage fragrances. I think there is a native variety to that region in Oman, and they use a lot of ingredients that grow there or that can be sourced there in their fragrances. So it is as authentic as it gets. And what this ultimately smells like is a warm, spicy, slightly sweet tobacco with some balsamic elements kind of filling it out. And that is one thing you don't really get out of Tobacco Vanille. Tobacco Vanille comes off to me much more dry than this, but the balsams in here, again, kind of fill in the spaces, make it feel a little bit more filled out and dense. It's just something that wears really nicely on the skin. It smells more elegant, more dressed up. I would definitely dress this up a little bit more. You don't need much of it. It is pretty strong. This is not what I would call an alluring fragrance, but it's a refined one. It's one that feels put together and also a little bit different. That is Boundless from Amouage. When people ask me for one recommendation from the House of Argos, that they can enjoy for a lot of situations. There's many fragrances from the house I really enjoy, and in fact most of them are up here if I'm not mistaken, but this is one I can easily recommend if you're looking for something easy to wear that smells really attractive in the air and is relatively versatile. Not my first choice on the hottest day, but you could maybe do it. I don't know. This is Danaë. Some people say Danaë. I call it Danaë. Whatever you want to call it doesn't matter. It smells wonderful. Sweet Cistus labdanum based fragrance. Cistus labdanum is a resin, comes from the rock rose, and it is sweet and sticky, can be a little bit leathery and warm and maybe ambery in some ways. And in this case, it is more on the smooth side of things. It is sweet and sticky. Smells kind of like this color. It's brown smelling in a way, but that's paired with some citrus, some light woods. In the air, this stuff lingers like crazy. Some of the most beautiful sillage I've experienced in a fragrance, and it just is kind of intoxicating when you catch a whiff of it in the air. I think you could actually wear it as a signature day or night to the office or on a date, and if you're gonna wear it in the day to the office, then I wouldn't spray too much because it can be very overwhelming. But we're talking about date night, no more than 2-3 sprays of this stuff, because you're gonna be with one person, you'll be close to them all night long. You don't need a super powerful fragrance that peels all the paint and shatters all the windows. That is unnecessary. This will get you noticed even with a couple of sprays, and it's beautiful. That is Danaë from Argos. Use the code FRESH10 as always to save 10% at their website. And our final fragrance, I have loved this stuff for a long time, ever since I first tried it a couple years back. My wife loves this as well. I've taken this on several trips we've done, maybe overnights, and this has been like my one nighttime out fragrance that I would bring with me, and I've loved it, and once again she has too. From Alghabra, this is Labyrinth of Spices. I used to talk about this a whole lot more, but I once again took a break from it because I was just a little redundant. But we're back on this thing because it is that good. Just about every spice you can think of: cardamom, nutmeg, cloves, cinnamon. Has a nice bit of this pipe tobacco feel with coffee, and maybe even a touch of fruitiness, maybe pineapple when you first spray it on. But it is very dry, warm, spicy, sweet in a variety of ways, all working together. It's actually meant to depict a spice market in Turkey, but for some reason the way it comes together and when you wear it in the evening time on a date, it smells really alluring. It smells like something that draws you in, but it is also pretty powerful, like most of the fragrances from this house are. So this is easily one of my top recommendations for a date night fragrance, and especially if you love spices. That's Labyrinth of Spices. Let me know if you dig it, and try it at the links down below if you haven't. All right, let me know what you think of these fragrances. If you've tried them, if you want to see more videos like this, let me know, and I have other ideas. Maybe I'll entertain them if you guys want to click on them. Thank you so much for tuning in. Peace. I'll see you in the next one.